Well, James Harden's had himself a week. Hit the club, missed training camp. I think he just showed up to training camp a few days ago. So, hey, he's finally actually playing basketball, I guess. And, yeah, this is a pretty terrible look for James Harden. We know that James Harden, they'd kind of requested a trade. He wanted to go to Brooklyn. He wanted to go to a contender. And they already traded Russell Westbrook. So, Harden seems like the next one out. I mean, when you decide to, go to the club and risk, bringing COVID to all of your teammates, that's a really bad look. Like, you got to think about it. It's not that he's just missing training camp. It's the fact that he's putting everyone around him also at risk that makes it so much worse. Especially when James Harden has this reputation of, not being a winning player and stuff like that and, butting heads with teammates. And now he does this. The new coach, Steven Silas, has kind of taken shots at Harden, saying, like, you have to ask him if he's committed, and clearly he's not committed. So, James Harden's out. Like, he has to be out, because you cannot keep a guy on your team that has no interest in even showing up for training camp and would rather hit the club. You got to get him out of there. We all know the trades of Brooklyn that are rumored for, guys like Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, picks. But even that is just not enough for Harden. But it might be the best you get. We know he wants to go to Philly, and if you get Ben Simmons or Embiid in a trade offer, that's the final deal. Nobody's going to beat that. You have to take that if you're Houston, if somebody offers you, or if the Sixers offer you Ben Simmons or Embiid. Those seem like the two likeliest trade options for Harden. I don't really see another team that could sneak in for him, because those are the only really teams Harden wants to go to. And clearly Harden is very specific as to what teams he wants to go to, because he's not happy with the Rockets. He's not even showing up there half the time, so it's hard to see a team taking a risk on him when he might just not play for you. Now, I mean, maybe they don't trade him, but I can't see a way they fix the relationship. So, yes, Harden showed up to training camp, but, you don't think his teammates, the organization, and the coach are going to be slighted by the fact that he decided that, the Rockets, who really cares? I'm gonna go party. No, I'll show up when I can show up. And, now he's going to have to go through all the testing protocols and stuff like that. So, it is a really bad look. Harden's always been a bit of a partier, but this is not the time to do it. Of all times to be partying, at the beginning of the season in a pandemic is not the time. Maybe another team instead of the Sixers and Nets will make a move. We had rumors that the Celtics would try to attack him, that they were frantically trying to trade Kemba and Hayward. The problem is Hayward's gone now, so that's probably off the table. Maybe they'll throw in Jaylen Brown. I would be against that. I would not throw in Jaylen Brown for James Harden, but maybe they do. Maybe they can somehow turn Kemba and future assets into Harden. I doubt it, but you never know, because when Harden shows this much, distrust and disvalue in the team, then you might have to take whatever you can get for him. Harden is still a very good player, obviously. He's an MVP candidate every year, so there's going to be buyers for him. There's going to be teams that want him, and it's going to be hard for the Rockets to give up on him. I mean, the Rockets have said they have no interest in trading him, but you have to feel like this has to have caused maybe a change of heart. That they're going to have to trade him because you cannot keep him on your team. If the Rockets don't trade James Harden, do you think he just sits out the year? I mean, maybe, but I don't know if Harden would want to just decrease his value like that, especially when it seems kind of crazy that the relationship would get that bad that quickly. We had just heard that he wanted to be in Houston for a while, and then he was good teammates with Russ, and then all of a sudden, over the course of one offseason, and a short offseason at that, he gets to the point where he wants to sit out. I don't know, it seems weird. Maybe he wants to sit out, maybe he doesn't if they don't trade him, because at the end of the day, Harden doesn't have much power as to where he goes. The Rockets can keep him because he's under contract for a while. They don't have to trade him to one of his contenders. Harden can, give his piece on what he thinks they should do or where he wants to go, but at the end of the day, the Rockets have all the control. And if they want to keep Harden because, you don't want to trade a generational talent, then they won't trade him. Unless he sits out. If he sits out, then you have to trade him because there's no reason to keep a guy on your team who's just not going to play for you. If Harden actually played for them, they could actually be good. I don't know why Harden's giving up on the team so much. They've made some moves. They acquired John Wall, who Harden said he'd prefer to play with over Russell Westbrook. So you can't say you'd prefer to play with John Wall and then just not play with him. They acquired DeMarcus Cousins, Christian Wood, who could be really good for them. So it seems kind of weird that he's just all of a sudden giving up on the team and deciding to just, hit the club instead of getting training camp. I don't understand it. So, because when you trade Russell Westbrook for John Wall, you don't think Harden had a little bit of an impact in that trade, saying, hey, Russell Westbrook, it didn't work with me. Well, go get John Wall. I want to play with him. And then they did that move, and then you're just going to request a trade? That doesn't make any sense. Especially when James Harden has said multiple times that he wants to play with stars, and then it doesn't work out. It worked out with Chris Paul for like a year, then that kind of fell apart. He wanted to play with Russ, that has fallen apart. Now he wants to play with John Wall, who's just, in my opinion, a worse version of Russell Westbrook. So I don't really see how that can work out. So we'll see if maybe his returning to training camp is the beginning of a reforming with the Rockets, or if this is just it for him. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't got much more. Just James Harden's not committed. Loves the club, hates the Rockets. That's about it.